Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here are your hosts, Rob Stanley and Lisa Kinski.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. My name is Lisa Kinski, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Stanley. And today with us, we have Andy Craig from AdHabit, and we're going to be talking about Amazon ad strategies for beginners. So let's go ahead and bring Andy on board. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much. And I love the tacos in illuminated
lit up
in your background. If anyone's just listening to the episode, please head over to YouTube and check that out. It's a very, very fun little homage to advertising, even though it is an actual taco. Did you have to custom order that, or did you find that on the internet?
Nope, I just found it just like it was. I was looking for some sort of neon sign for the background and thought it was perfect.
That is
awesome.
Absolutely perfect. We love it. Well, Andy, thank you so much for being here with us today. Like we said, we're going to be talking about Amazon ad strategies for beginners. And I think the first question that any beginner has with anything, right? I'm looking to get a peephole installed in my front door, and I'm like, what's it going to cost? So how much budget should sellers allocate to their ad spend?
So there's a couple different approaches, I would say, to talking about that. I would say the first thing, if you're a new seller that's just getting started testing out your first product on Amazon, I would recommend to have enough of a budget for at least the first 2 orders, and to, at least break even and not make any money whatsoever on your performance on Amazon for the first couple months. And then I would work backwards from, what are your goals, right? What are your sales goals? And work backwards from that to like a break-even tacos and figure that out. So, if you want to hit $10,000 a month in sales in the first month, and you have, say, 50% profit margins, at least you want 50% of that 10,000. So you want $5,000 in ad spend for that first month, if that goal is the $10,000 in sales. So I always kind of try to reverse engineer it with math to pencil out where it makes sense.
Yeah. And since this is an episode for beginners, of course, ACOS, advertising cost of sale, and then tacos, as it's affectionately referred to, target advertising cost of sale, right? So that's kind of where you want to be at the end of the day, depending on what your goals are. And so when we're talking about experimenting, I don't know, it seems like when should they start to implement Amazon ads? Like you said, allocate budget for about 2 orders. Is it their very first 2 orders? Should they try to get some organic rank first? I mean, where do they begin? It's like, okay, I have my product. I have my first order of product. It's in FBA. When do I start running ads?
You want to run ads immediately. Some people say you want to wait for reviews, but unless you have some sort of external review strategy, there's, Amazon Vine, there's things like that. But for all my clients, for anyone that we're launching on Amazon, we run ads from day one to generate those first orders, to get some ranking going, and to take advantage of that honeymoon period on Amazon, so we could, get that ball rolling as fast as possible.
And what about Andy, doing both those together? You're mentioning Vine, you're mentioning running ads. Is that actually maybe, I don't want to say a better strategy, but is that something that if you're in the Vine program, that it's kind of, they help each other because you're getting those reviews? And okay. So maybe explain a little bit also to the audience, that if they're kind of first time, kind of what Vine is and versus what we're talking about right now with the different ad strategies for pay-per-click type stuff.
Yeah, so the Amazon Vine program is a program developed by Amazon to help you get those initial reviews, because that could be one of the hardest things for new sellers getting started, or existing sellers that are launching more products. This allows you to get a maximum of 30 reviews out the gate. But they have changed that program recently. So you want to make sure you sign up for all 30, because if you sign up for 2 reviews, they're not going to let you sign up again and get 28 more. So you want to make sure to sign up for those 30. And that the way it really helps you as well is it helps to increase your click-through rate for people that are actually visiting Amazon and they see your listing, you're going to get more clicks with the impressions that you have, and it helps to increase your conversion rate. So as you get more reviews over time, as you're getting more sales, you're going to start to see that, total advertising cost of sale go down because your conversion rate is slowly going up. That's where, you might lose money or break even for the first month or so, but then eventually your conversion rate gets high enough because you have more reviews, you figure out which keywords are working the best, and the reviews really help with the conversion rate quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
And you mentioned,
go ahead, Rob.
just real quick, you were mentioning ACoS, so advertising cost of sales.
Yeah.
How does that kind of metric influence like ad strategies a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously tacos is most important because it does reflect profits, but we always need to have an ACoS we're going after. Most of the time when we're first launching that ACoS, we go right around break even, maybe a little bit above, depending on what the goals are. But that affects your profitability on your ad sales. Like how efficient is your ad spend? And we over time we want to bring that ACoS down. But like I said in the beginning, we want to break even on our ad sales and use that to push the organic ranking and the organic sales.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
I was just going to ask about the Vine program. For our first time sellers able to get into the Vine program, I mean, so long as you should have to be brand registered to apply, right?
Correct. Yep. If you have a trademark and you're brand registered, you can get right into the Vine program.
Oh, exceptional. Okay. And so what about competitors and how you should be performing against them? Because I think it's pretty well known now, right, that Amazon is a pretty pay to play environment now, whereas
Yeah.
it used to not be a couple of years ago, especially since the pandemic. It's become really aggressive. And if you are coming out with a new insulated tumbler that would be a competitor to Yeti, should you be looking at what Yeti is doing in ad sales, or maybe kind of scale down your expectations to something like an Arctic cup? Not that they're not great cups, but it's something of a little less caliber. What does that look like?
Well, if we're pushing this episode more towards beginners, you can't compare yourself with the Eddy and maybe even the Arctics, right? You got to compare yourself with these other smaller brands, the mom and pop, because what Yeti and what some of these other big brands have is they have a lot of purchases happening through their brand name. And just because they're such a well-known brand, their conversion rates are going to be way higher than yours. So you really want to compare yourself with newer sellers that are similar reviews to you, and see what their sales are using tools like Helium 10 and different search tools.
Okay. You answered my next
Yeah.
question, which was how do you find your competitors when you're kind of looking for that middle tier?
I love Helium 10. We use both DataDive and Helium 10 for our keyword research, but both great tools.
Yeah. And Andy, a question for you on, when people are first getting started, other than the fact that maybe they're not doing advertising of any type, what are some of the common mistakes you see beginners make when they're just getting going with Amazon advertising?
I would say they launch too many things at once. A lot of times they go super broad, and we all hear every new ad type that Amazon has, the sponsored display, the sponsored brand, the new categories that they launch, and people want to just launch as many as they can. And what happens is they're not maximizing their sales on their most relevant, sponsored product keywords, right? That's where I see the most mistakes happening. Is they're getting little clicks and little impressions where they have the highest conversion rates. What I always recommend is, maximize your sales where you're converting the best. Get that ranking before you go too broad and try to hit every ad type that Amazon has.
So which ad type do you recommend that new sellers begin with? Sponsored display, sponsored brand? Where do you think they should start?
We do quite a bit, but we kind of work our way up the funnel. We start with sponsored products, exact match, phrase broad on our best keywords. Like in my YouTube videos, I always use a garlic press as an example. So if I'm selling a stainless steel garlic press, that keyword, stainless steel garlic press, is where I should maximize my ad spend, because that's where I should have the highest conversion rate. Now, we'll do this in sponsored products, and we'll test out sponsored brand video because that could convert really well also. So we'll test out some headline search ads, things like that. But we want to have, I would say, 90% of our ad spend going towards sponsored products. And there's also, sponsored display, views remarketing, and purchases remarketing, especially if you have a consumable product. We want to retarget people that have already purchased our product using sponsored display.
Gotcha.
Excellent. Excellent. And what about Andy when it comes to like adjusting their bids? So they get these initial bids going. Is it kind of like a set it and forget it, or should they be really paying attention to these bids and making adjustments all the time? Like, what's the strategy when it comes to that?
Yeah, when you're adjusting your bids, you should pay attention to it. We have a very data focused approach at AdHabit to where the targets that are getting a lot of clicks, we need to optimize more often. So I always break it back towards that conversion rate. If we have a 10% conversion rate, we should get about 10 clicks for every sale. So if we have 10 clicks and we got a sale, at that point we should be able to adjust our bid towards that target A cost that we want. A good formula to use is revenue per click times target A costs, which basically will tell you, okay, if your A cost was that target, this is what your bid should be to hit that target. It's kind of confusing to say in a podcast, but it's a good formula to use.
We can try to type it out and put it in the description to make a little more sense, because you're right. This is a little hard to kind of mind map, and that's why. But that's still it's so important to have the conversations, right? But that's why folks like you exist. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say too, you want to optimize everything. I would say at least once per week, sometimes twice per week. And you're gonna have a lot of targets that aren't getting enough impressions. With those, you want to slowly start to increase the bids. And I think you might have mentioned too, Rob, like where should you start the bid? Amazon's suggested bid is a good place to start. But when I'm launching, say, new targets, I really base it off what my cost per click is across my account. Let's say most of my exact match campaigns, I'm right around $1 CPC, cost per click. That's what I'm going to launch my bids for my future exact match campaigns, right? If you know you're converting well, you're hitting your target A cost at $1, you shouldn't launch to a $3 bid because you're likely to have a very high A cost.
Got it.
Andy, how many times do you see some of these newer sellers that are just getting started kind of freak out when you tell them, hey, we're going to run these for like a break even just to get product going and build up the velocity and get them established basically as a seller? And kind of how do you handle that because people are going to ask, right?
Yeah, I have some sellers that come to us and they've already spent a lot of money and it's not working out very well. And unfortunately, when they come to us, we have to spend more money to figure out what might work because we're testing out new strategies. And we always base it off of what their goals are, but we want to work with them to set those realistic goals. So I just kind of let them know that we're going to track the metrics and we're going to have a plan of action every single week. Like, this is the goal this week. If we hit this is the next week goal. And we're always working towards, like, if they're trying to hit profits, we're always slowly trying to bring that tacos down to hit whatever goals they're looking for.
Excellent. We are going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, but when we come back, we're going to jump straight back into the conversation with Andy. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, Amazon sellers, your Amazon profit margins are shrinking? Let Getida uncover hidden FBA refunds so you can maximize and boost your Amazon profits today. We specialize in turning lost FBA refunds into profit. Sellernomics listeners can get a $400 offer by visiting Getida.com/Sellernomics. And remember, with Getida, your hard-earned money and profit stays in your pocket.
All right, y'all. So be sure to head over to Getida.com/Sellernomics for your first 400 and FBA reimbursements free. That's $400 back that you can reinvest into your ads. So we're back with Andy from AdHabit.
And we recommend that for all of our clients. So.
Awesome.
Exceptional. Wonderful. So we were talking about, when you're working with your clients and you are saying, hey, we're going to have to break even for a little while, but we're going to be tracking these metrics and we'll let you know how things are kind of going. If a seller is managing their ads internally, what are some of the metrics that they should be looking at? We talked about conversion rate and tacos, but at what point in time do they say, okay, yes, this is working, or no, this isn't working?
Yeah, I would say the best metrics to track. Actually, one of the biggest things I see also is sellers aren't making plans. They're not tracking their metrics. And you probably heard the saying, measure, what is it? Measure what matters or something like that. So basically, you have to track your metrics in order to, hit your goals and come up with a plan. I would say tacos is super important, and also profits, right? You have to, know your cost of goods, what your cost of goods sold are, subtract that from everything to actually have a realistic vision of what your profit is and what it's going to be, because it's very hard on Amazon, on Seller Central to kind of break down their payments to figure out if you're profitable or not. So track your profits. Tacos is a big one. ACOS. Your click-through rate is very important, and the conversion. Those are going to play a huge impact on how you perform on Amazon. And there's a lot of different ways you could optimize your listing to test and improve your click-through rate and conversion rate, but it's very hard to do if you're not tracking it. So those are super important. Ad spend is another big one, because if you have a goal to hit, say, I'll go back, say $10,000 in sales the first month, you have to have the ad spend to get there. So that's a big portion as well.
Yeah. Andy, what about when, somebody who's kind of beginning with this, and they come to you and they're like, hey, my competitors seem to be selling more. Is there any way you kind of analyze them or figure out like a strategy to kind of, I don't know, beat them, I guess, in a way?
Yeah. So there's obviously, product targeting that we go after. We show up on their listing, we show up on their search terms as well. And we, do like reverse ASIN searches with Cerebro, with Helium 10, figure out where they're ranking, where their sales are coming from. And there's a lot of different areas. Like you can go to the Product Opportunity Explorer, you can go to Amazon Brand Analytics and try to figure out where they're ranking, where they're getting their clicks, and start to target a lot of those keywords as well.
And what do you recommend for the sellers who do have a plan, they know where they want to go, and they're looking forward towards expansion? When should they take their ads from in-house and begin to outsource them either to VA or hire somebody else internally? I mean, that's still inside, but that's not just the single seller, right? So I guess when should they make that handoff? At what point in time are they ready?
Yeah, it really depends on each person, right? If they're actually interested in running their ads, they want to learn it, because it is a huge learning curve. When I first started as a seller myself, I dove in as deep as I could about Amazon ads. And looking back now, I didn't know what I was doing, right? But I would say like I said, it depends on your goals. So you can hire a VA, but at the same time, then you have to manage the VA. You have to manage an employee, and it's hard to know what they're doing, if they're doing it right, if you don't know what you're doing. One good strategy is plenty of agencies, just like myself, offer free audits on your account. So that's a good first step to figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can I improve things? And then maybe once you improve them, once you learn it yourself or hire, then you can kind of look at getting an agency and having them take it over. Now, you can get an agency from day one, but that's going to eat probably into your pocket a little bit more. At AdHabit, we offer, full service, we offer ad service, and we also offer training to brands that want to do it in-house. So I would say you kind of need that stuff right away just to get started and to perform the way you want to perform.
Gotcha. Yeah. And just out of curiosity, you said that you did a deep dive into advertising when you first started selling. How long ago was that when you started your selling journey?
Yep. I started in 2020 and just YouTube University, courses, like all kinds of anywhere I could find information on Amazon ads and PPC, I watched it. I would spend hours and hours and hours a day trying to figure this stuff out.
And so you were one of the quarantine sellers that came to us, and are you still selling today? I assume you've been successful. Yep. And so how have you seen ads change in the last 4 years? We always kind of talk about the sellers that came in during the pandemic, and I don't think we've actually talked to one. Sure. So this is exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot more competitive. I've always launched products in blue ocean markets where there's not really a lot of competition, but there's not a huge upside either. Because I like to make money from day one. If you're launching into a super competitive category, it does take a lot more time. So I've always just found little sub niches, little markets where there's no product and people are looking for it and launch there. But even with some of the products I've had to shut them down just because so much competition has jumped up. And if it's a commodity type product, it won't last forever. So I would just say the biggest thing is Amazon has gotten more competitive. There's a lot more sellers, and you need to be a little bit more sophisticated. And when you're launching, you want to compare yourself against the current market, right? If you're going up against sellers with 5,000 reviews, 20,000 reviews, great listings, you have to have an even better listing, really great images, really great, copy, really great product to get really good reviews, right? If yours is subpar and they already have thousands of reviews, you're not going to convert well against them.
Andy, I think you brought up a good point there. So we're talking a lot about Amazon ad strategy for beginners. So once they've kind of got the strategy going? What is the next step after the beginner level? And what kind of tips can you suggest?
I would say you need to start increasing ad spend after you've kind of established yourself a little bit. Maybe you're ranking on a couple of keywords. Now you want to start going after, bigger keywords, trying to get, maybe you're at the middle of page one. You want to go towards getting to the top of page one. And you're going to have to spend money to do it, whether you're sending external traffic to Amazon or you're showing up a lot more at the top of search on the page. Now you might have to say lose money on that keyword for a month and in order to get that ranking, but then you could slowly start to decrease your ad spend, track the organic rank on a daily basis to make sure you don't drop too much. Now, that's a little bit more, as you're getting established, you want to make sure you're tracking organic rank. You're tracking, say you launch some ranking campaigns. You want to really track that performance and figure out what levers you need to pull with your data in order to, say rank on the keywords or possibly rank on bigger keywords. Now, there's so many different ways to do it. You could start sending influencer traffic. You could run Google ads, tons of stuff, but the majority of your ad spend is still going to be on Amazon ads.
Yeah,
Do you find that sellers who are maybe not aware of the honeymoon period are confused when the honeymoon period ends? I mean, even though there's not a set timeline on it, right? But it's like, oh my gosh, I was doing so well. What happened? I didn't change anything. It's just like, well,
Yeah,
you're old news now. Like,
yeah, it's
a little
really
less
hard,
exciting.
right? Some brands will notice like we have their honeymoon period and we never see a drop off. It just keeps going up. Other ones we see like, okay, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then performance just drops off. Even though we have the same impressions, we have the same clicks, and then for some reason our conversion rate changes. And it's really hard to talk with these clients and talk with these sellers and let them know it could be the honeymoon period, right? That's a difficult time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, before we transition over to talking more about AdHabit and getting some more information from you, is there any other tips or advice you'd want to give to beginning, sellers that are looking at different ad strategies?
Yeah, I would definitely say use the source that agencies like mine and many others have to offer. Get those audits from them. That way you kind of help get a plan of action and a path to make sure you're doing things right. Either hire an agency, consult with an agency, or anyone that that's already done this for themselves before, and make sure you're on the right track there. As far as other tips as well, make sure your listing is top notch, right? Test the main image, test the title, run these different split tests. Amazon has their built-in experiments tab where you could split test that. That click-through rate, the conversion rate is going to make or break your Amazon listing.
Yeah, you
Good
can
advice.
send a ton of traffic to a bad listing all day long and it's never going to sell. You've got to have a good listing to start with and a good product too, right?
Yeah.
And I liked what you said about using the resources that the agencies are offering. Probably it's worth, I would assume, shopping around and getting a couple of different free audits from different agencies that you can, one, see how thorough each of them is, and two, kind of experience the customer service side to say, oh, hey, maybe in the future when I'm ready, I do want to work with Andy and the AdHabit team. They were like super responsive and like answered my questions. And you said you even have training for new sellers outside of your managed services. So let's go on ahead and talk more about AdHabit. How did y'all get started? And who is it that you help serve? And what does your pricing look like? We'll just go ahead and throw that out there too, if we can.
Yeah. So we started, obviously I already said I started as a seller, dove in, learned as much about ads as I possibly could, and just kept growing from there. Learned about ads, did it for myself, started helping, friends that I met, through being in the Amazon space, and then started helping more people. And then before you knew it, I had more clients than I could handle. So then I okay, let's make this a little bit bigger. I started an agency, AdHabit was born, and it's been kind of all she wrote since there. I just kept more clients, hiring more, training, and growing it. We recently started some of the training stuff because we've seen there's a lot of these new sellers that couldn't quite afford the agency fees. So I'm saying, how would you like to learn how to do this yourself? And that's been super popular. So yeah, that's how we started. I'm over in Detroit, Michigan, but we're a totally remote team across, in the US, across the world. So I would say for the pricing side of it, I would say we're not too expensive, but it depends on what you're looking for. We really base it on each custom brand and exactly what they're looking for. We offer full management. We do copy. We have a creative department. but our main clients are Amazon ads. I would say it starts anywhere from like $1,000 to $10,000. It depends on the client, how big they are, and what they're looking for.
Really depends on what you
Excellent.
need. Excellent. And Andy, if they have any questions or want to learn more information, where can folks find and reach out to you?
Yeah, you can go to ad-habit.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I've been putting out a lot of actionable YouTube content to show people how to do this themselves. You can just look Andy Craig Amazon and find that on YouTube pretty easily.
That's awesome. And for our audio listeners, again, the website is ad-habit.com, and you can email Andy directly at andy@ad-habit.com, or again, LinkedIn or YouTube, Andy Craig Amazon. You said you pop right up. Lots of content over there as well. Andy, thank you so much for coming on with us today and sharing this information. Really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you so much for everyone who tuned in today. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, share your thoughts with us in the comments, subscribe to the show, and we will see you all on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.